My name is Alex, and I never imagined I'd be sharing this story. I was a man of science, a geophysicist, who spent years studying the Antarctic ice walls, grounded firmly in what I could measure and observe. I didn't believe in anything beyond that. But everything changed on February 12th, 2025, when my life, as I knew it, ended. I was on another expedition when disaster struck. In an instant, I found myself looking at my lifeless body from above. What happened next challenged everything I had believed about the laws of physics. Jesus revealed to me the truth about Antarctica, the hidden deception, and what lies beyond the ice. It all started as a typical expedition, just another day exploring the cold, uncharted regions of Antarctica. My team and I were investigating strange electromagnetic signals emanating from deep under the ice. These signals had been detected for months, fluctuating in ways that defied any logical explanation. My job was to analyze these patterns and determine whether they were linked to undiscovered geothermal activity or something else hidden beneath the frozen surface. On the morning of February 12th, 2025, I woke up early at our research base. The sun barely skimmed the horizon, casting an eerie blue glow over the icy landscape. As I suited up in my thermal gear, I couldn't shake an odd feeling of unease. It wasn't fear, just a gut feeling that something wasn't right. I shrugged it off as exhaustion from several sleepless weeks. That day's mission involved drilling deeper than ever before, aiming at a region that had been emitting unusual low-frequency vibrations. The deeper we went, the stranger things became. Our equipment started malfunctioning, the GPS systems went haywire, and even the radios picked up distorted, eerie whispers, voices that weren't coming from any of us. Then, at exactly 11:42 a.m., it happened. A massive crack appeared beneath my feet. The ice, which had seemed so solid moments before, shattered like glass. I didn't have time to react. 1 second, I was standing on firm ground. The next, I was plummeting into darkness, surrounded by nothing but cold, suffocating silence. The last thing I remember before everything went black was the crackling of my radio. I heard someone from my team scream my name, but I was already gone. This mission to Antarctica had been planned for over a year. Our goal was simple: uncover the source of the anomalies beneath the ice. For decades, scientists had speculated about what could be hidden beneath the frozen wasteland. My team had been granted special clearance to investigate areas that had been off-limits for years. What we uncovered was beyond anything we could have imagined. Days before my death, we stumbled upon evidence of something extraordinary beneath the ice, structures that could either be man-made or far older than any human civilization. The data was baffling. Satellite images revealed perfectly symmetrical shapes, geometric patterns that defied explanation, and a massive anomaly buried miles below. I had never been one to entertain conspiracy theories, but as I stared at the radar images of things that simply shouldn't exist, I knew without a doubt that the world had been kept in the dark. The further we explored, the more unsettling things became. Our drills, designed to cut through solid ice, instead discovered hollow chambers where the temperature was unnervingly warm. The air crackled with a strange electric charge that caused our instruments to malfunction. Then, without warning, our communications were cut off. 1 minute, we were in contact with mission control. The next, all signals went dead. No radio, no satellite phone, no emergency beacons, only static. That's when the ground beneath us began to shake. Within moments, the entire drilling site started to sink. I tried to shout to my team, but before I could, everything collapsed. The instant my body hit the ice, I expected pain, crushing, suffocating pain, but it never came. Instead, I felt weightless, free. It took me a moment to process what had happened. I was floating. Below me, my body lay twisted, partially buried under broken ice. I should have been terrified, but strangely, I wasn't. There was no panic, no struggle, just an overwhelming sense of calm that defied all logic. Then I saw them. Figures in white, glowing beings standing at the edge of the fissure watching in silence. I couldn't see their faces, but their presence was so powerful that I instantly knew they were not human. As I turned, I felt an invisible force pulling me upward. The ice, the ruins, my team, everything faded away. A tunnel of brilliant light appeared before me, unlike anything I had ever imagined. It wasn't just light. It was alive, humming, with energy and power. Without thinking, I stepped forward. Then I heard his voice. "Martin." It was the most powerful yet gentle voice I could ever imagine. The instant he said my name, I knew exactly who it was. No explanation was needed. It was Jesus. Tears welled up in my eyes as I saw him standing in front of me. His presence was more real than anything I'd ever experienced. All the doubts I'd ever had about life after death, about faith, even about science, everything fell away in that instant. "You're here for a reason," he said. "What you're about to witness must be shared." I looked over and saw my own lifeless body on the ice. The rescue team had arrived, desperately trying to revive me. My heart had stopped for 12 minutes, but as I watched them, something unsettling caught my attention. They weren't alone. Dark shapes lingered around them, unseen by the living, whispering things I couldn't make out. I felt a deep, instinctual fear. Whatever they were, they didn't belong to the light. They were drawn to death, to fear, circling like vultures. Then Jesus placed his hand on my shoulder. "Do not fear them," he said. "They have no power over those who belong to me." As he spoke, the dark figures recoiled, hissing as they disappeared into the shadows. "The world is blind to what exists beyond their sight," he said. "But you will see. Come, Martin, there's something you must understand about what lies beneath Antarctica." At his words, the world around me changed. One moment I was in the icy expanse of Antarctica. The next, I found myself somewhere else, somewhere that defied everything I thought I understood. As Jesus took my hand, the frozen landscape of Antarctica vanished. I braced myself for the familiar tunnel of light often described by near-death survivors. But what I saw was far different. The light wasn't just a tunnel. It was a doorway, a bridge between worlds. It stretched endlessly before me. But I could sense that this was no ordinary path. The air, or whatever surrounded me, buzzed with an energy I couldn't fully grasp, as if something vast and incomprehensible was present. I took a careful step forward and, without effort, I began to move, drawn towards something much greater. Colors beyond anything human eyes can comprehend danced around me, shifting and blending in ways that left my mind struggling to catch up. It was mesmerizing, but also overwhelming. Then, as abruptly as it had started, the journey halted. I found myself standing on solid ground, though it wasn't anything I'd ever felt before. It wasn't rock, nor was it ice. It was something alive, pulsing, with a strange energy. Jesus stood beside me, his presence radiating pure love and authority. "Look, Martin, and witness what has been hidden." Before me lay a landscape I didn't recognize. It wasn't heaven nor earth. It was something else entirely. In the center of this strange land stood towering walls of ice, ancient, colossal, and unyielding. A sudden realization struck me. These weren't natural formations. The ice walls of Antarctica had been placed here for a reason. Jesus spoke again, his voice a mix of sorrow and certainty. And soon, the world will try to tear them down. I turned to him, my mind racing with questions. But as I looked into his eyes, all my doubts and fears melted away. His face was beyond description, familiar, yet somehow more than human, filled with a wisdom and compassion I couldn't begin to understand. His eyes, deep, endless pools of light, held all the knowledge of the universe. He looked at me and said, "You were chosen to witness this because you've spent your life searching for answers." Then, with a pause, he added, "But some truths can't be measured, they must be revealed." I felt tears begin to flow from my spiritual being, though I wasn't sure why. It was as if his very presence was pulling out every doubt I'd ever had, yet, despite it all, he loved me unconditionally. Raising his hand, he caused my vision to shift. Suddenly I saw the earth as it truly was, not through human eyes, but through a divine perspective. The Antarctic region, a place I had studied my entire life, appeared radically different. The towering ice walls weren't just natural formations. They were something far more significant, intentionally placed, designed for a purpose. There's a reason mankind has been kept from knowing what lies beyond, Jesus explained. Soon, that veil of protection will be lifted. A deep sorrow filled his voice, and I felt that what he was about to show me would shatter my understanding of reality. As he extended his hand, my vision expanded beyond anything I had ever known. It was as if I had been blind all my life, suddenly seeing beyond the veil of ignorance. What I saw in Antarctica wasn't the barren wasteland I had come to expect. Beneath the ice, buried deep within layers untouched by time, there were massive structures, cities, fortresses, and something else, something alive. These walls were put in place to keep what should not be disturbed, he explained. I watched, horrified, as governments and scientists, including my own colleagues, continued to drill deeper into the ice, unaware of what they were awakening. They thought they were uncovering the past, but in reality, they were releasing something far older than humanity itself. Beneath the ice, ancient entities stirred, sealed away long before humanity's existence by a divine command. For centuries, their presence had been concealed by science, dismissed as mere myth, but now I knew they were undeniably real. I saw a vision of events yet to come, news reports about groundbreaking discoveries in Antarctica, leaders talking about new technological breakthroughs, and rumors of alien contact. But it was all a lie. The world would be told that these revelations were a major leap forward, a moment of evolution. In reality, it was the beginning of the end. Satan's greatest weapon is deception, Jesus said, and the world is walking right into his trap. I wanted to deny it. I wanted to believe that the discoveries in Antarctica were just regular scientific advancements, nothing more. But Jesus showed me the truth beneath it all. They've been planning this for decades, he said, preparing the world to accept what's coming. I saw government meetings, secret talks between powerful people, and a greater force pulling the strings behind the scenes. They weren't just uncovering the past, they were following a plan. Jesus revealed to me a world teetering on the edge, economic collapse, political chaos, fear spreading uncontrollably. And then, the announcement. The world's leaders would claim that something extraordinary had been found beneath Antarctica, something powerful, something that would change everything. They would tell us it was the key to humanity's future, the next stage of evolution, and people would believe them. The enemy will call it enlightenment, Jesus warned, a gift, a way to unite humanity. But what they are really doing is opening a door that should never be opened. A chilling fear began to creep into my soul as I understood what he meant. This wasn't just about hidden civilizations or ancient ruins. This was something far darker. The ice walls of Antarctica weren't just barriers. They were seals, and what lay beneath them was never meant to resurface. Jesus stood by my side as the vision unfolded before me. What I had once thought were just symbolic religious ideas, spiritual battles, fallen beings, hidden dimensions, were now undeniably real. The ice walls of Antarctica weren't just physical barriers, they were divine seals put in place to prevent something far more dangerous from breaking into our world. The true battle has never been between flesh and blood, Jesus said, his voice heavy with sadness. It's always been a fight between forces that lie beyond human perception. And now, the enemy is preparing for his greatest deception. Before me, dark beings emerged, their forms flickering in and out of the ice. Their presence made the air itself vibrate with unease. These weren't human or alien as people often thought, but something far more sinister. They had been cast away and trapped beneath the icy wasteland, their influence kept at bay for thousands of years. But mankind, in its arrogance and hunger for knowledge, was about to release them. A massive crack appeared in the ice, and from it, shadows began to leak into our world. Unaware of the consequences, scientists celebrated their discovery, while leaders watched in secret, fully aware of the dangers they had unleashed. The world was about to change, but not in the way anyone expected. They will come pretending to be saviors, Jesus said, his eyes filled with sorrow, and many will accept them with open arms. As the vision continued, I saw what lay beyond the Antarctic ice walls, something beyond anything I had ever imagined. The ice didn't just hide ancient ruins or lost civilizations. It was a gateway, a boundary separating our world from something far darker. Beneath the surface, a massive city lay hidden, built from materials unknown to humanity. Its architecture was beyond human understanding, structures that defied logic, shifting and pulsing as if they were alive. At the heart of this city stood a throne, but the one who would sit upon it was no divine ruler. I watched as world leaders, the rich, the powerful, and even some spiritual figures gathered around the structure. Their eyes were full of awe and reverence, having eagerly awaited this moment. This wasn't just an archaeological find. It was the culmination of a carefully planned reveal. Jesus turned to me and said, "They'll call it a new beginning, the dawn of a new age of enlightenment. But now, you know the truth. This is the final deception." I saw news broadcasts filling television screens across the globe. Journalists were talking about a revelation that would change history. Scientists would argue that humanity had never been alone, claiming this discovery proved our connection to beings beyond our understanding. And then, the ultimate lie unfolded. The world would be told that these ancient beings were the true creators of humanity, and that the old religions, including Christianity, had misunderstood humanity's origins. The deception would be so convincing that even the most faithful would be at risk of falling for it. Jesus looked at me, and his words sent a chill through my soul. "The real test of faith begins here?" I turned to him, my heart racing with fear. How can they not see this? How will people believe it? His expression was a mixture of sorrow and resolve. Because the enemy doesn't use force. He uses deception. He won't make them choose between good and evil. He'll make them believe evil is good. I saw celebrations worldwide as people rejoiced when governments announced their new alliance with these so-called advanced beings. Technology would skyrocket, offering cures for diseases, clean energy, and even extensions of life. The world would celebrate this as progress, but in return, they'd be asked to give up something far greater: their free will, their spiritual discernment, and their connection to God. The mark will come, Jesus warned, but not as a command, more like a choice wrapped in a promise. People will be told it's the next step in human evolution, that it will make them stronger, healthier, and smarter. But what they don't realize is that accepting it will cut them off from me forever. I watched as people eagerly lined up to receive the upgrade. No one was forced. There was no fear. They actually wanted it. They were craving it. Their minds had been primed for this moment over decades of conditioning. I saw churches split on the issue, some warning against this evolution of humanity, while others welcomed it. Many spiritual leaders took to the stage, reassuring their followers that this wasn't the mark of the beast, but simply progress. But then Jesus showed me the spiritual consequences. As each person accepted the upgrade, something inside them began to fade. Their ability to pray with real sincerity diminished. Their connection with God was severed. They could no longer hear the Holy Spirit or feel the weight of conviction. They were still walking, still talking, still going about their daily routines, but they were changed. Their souls had been altered in a way that could never be undone. Frozen in horror, I felt Jesus touch my shoulder. "It's time for you to go back," he said. "You've seen what's coming. Now, you need to warn them." I wanted to stay. I had so many questions, but before I could speak, everything around me started to fade. The next thing I knew, I gasped for air. My body jerked as reality hit me with full force. Doctors were shouting in surprise. I had been dead for 12 minutes. I looked around, still disoriented, trying to process what had just happened. My team was there, some in tears, others in shock. The scientific instruments flickered, still registering oddities beneath the ice, as if even they sensed that something had shifted. But I knew what I had seen. As I lay there in the hospital bed, it became clear why I had been sent back. The world needed to know. The deception was coming, and most people weren't ready for it. Jesus had shown me the truth, and now it was my responsibility to share it. Would they listen? That was no longer up to me. As soon as my body came back to life, I felt like a stranger trapped in my own skin. My lungs burned as I gasped for air, and my heart pounded as though it had been jolted back to life by some unseen force. The sterile smell of the hospital room hit me first, followed by the chaotic voices of my medical team. "He's back," a nurse cried out, pressing her fingers to my wrist to check my pulse. Doctors rushed around me, their faces a mix of disbelief and urgency. I had been dead for 12 minutes, no pulse, no brain activity, and yet here I was, wide awake, staring at them with eyes that carried the weight of eternity. But it wasn't just my revival that shocked them. It was the way I came back. I sat up almost instantly, gripping the edges of the hospital bed, overwhelmed by the flood of memories from what I had just experienced. It felt as though my mind had split in two, one part still in the physical world, the other clinging to the vision Jesus had shown me. I wasn't the same person anymore. I knew I never would be. Finally, a doctor, tall, with graying hair and a skeptical frown, spoke. "Martin, you were clinically dead. Do you remember anything?" I stared at him, my throat dry, chest tight. How could I even begin to explain what I had seen? My voice was raspy as I whispered the only truth that mattered. Jesus is real. The deception is coming, and Antarctica, it's not what we think. The room fell quiet. Some exchanged nervous glances, while others wrote it off as delirium. But one nurse, a younger woman standing at the back, stared at me with wide eyes, as if she understood. She hesitated, then slowly took a step toward me. I've heard things about Antarctica. Things they're not telling us." The doctor gave me a sharp look, but I could see the fear behind her eyes. She wasn't brushing me off. She believed me. And in that moment, it hit me. That's why I was brought back. The world had to know. In the weeks after my return, I was torn about what to do next. I knew what I had seen, and I knew what Jesus had shown me. But how could I get anyone to listen? Scientists, skeptics, and even my own colleagues would just laugh if I told them that Antarctica wasn't just a frozen wasteland. It was a hidden battlefield, a place where forces beyond our comprehension were at war. I tried to return to my normal life, to focus on my research, but it all felt empty. What once was my greatest passion now seemed insignificant in the grand scheme of things. At night, the visions wouldn't leave me. I saw the lies unfolding, governments slowly revealing bits of the truth, setting the stage for the ultimate deception. News outlets began reporting on strange heat signatures beneath the ice and the discovery of ancient ruins. I saw powerful leaders strategizing on how to control the narrative, introducing these findings in stages so the world would eventually accept them as truth. Jesus' words haunted me. They'll call it enlightenment. They'll call it progress. But it will be the final lie. I couldn't stay silent any longer. I had to warn people. But I knew the dangers too well. Those who dared speak out, who tried to expose the truth, often disappeared. Careers ruined, reputations destroyed, their voices buried under ridicule and lies. I began by sharing my story with a small circle of trusted friends, people I knew were open-minded and had the ability to discern the truth. Some of them believed me right away, while others were hesitant, unsure of what it could mean if I was right. But then something happened that confirmed everything for me. A former government official, someone with close connections to secret research in Antarctica, contacted me. He had heard my story, and what he told me sent a chill down my spine. He said, "You're not wrong, Martin. There's something under that ice, and they're preparing to reveal it to the world. But not in the way you think." I asked him to explain further, but he wouldn't. Instead, he left me with one chilling piece of advice. When they make the announcement, don't believe a word of it. So now, here I am, writing this because time is running out. If you're reading this, know that this isn't a conspiracy theory or baseless speculation. This is a warning. In the coming months, possibly even weeks, major announcements about Antarctica will be made. They'll say they've made a groundbreaking discovery, something that will change everything we know about human history. They'll claim it's proof of our true origins and present it as a moment of unity, a leap toward a brighter future for humanity. But it will be a lie. What's hidden beneath the ice was never meant to be discovered. The ice walls were put in place for a reason, to keep something contained, not to keep us out. And now, humanity is about to break that barrier. I'm not here to tell you what to do, but I urge you, when you hear these announcements, remember this message. Don't buy into the narrative they want you to believe. Don't fall for the promises of enlightenment, progress, or newfound knowledge. Stay grounded in prayer. Stay close to Jesus. The deception is coming, but those who are aware and prepared will not be fooled. This is my story. I don't know how much longer I have, but I had to share it before it's too late. May God grant you the wisdom to see and the clarity to understand. After sharing my testimony, I expected to feel a sense of relief, but instead, I was left with an even heavier burden on my heart. As I watched the world unfold, it became more and more apparent that everything Jesus had shown me was already starting to happen. Reports of unexplained events in Antarctica were increasing. The media, which had previously ignored the area, was now running strange headlines hinting at discoveries hidden beneath the ice. Scientists I once worked with appeared on TV, discussing groundbreaking findings that were soon to be revealed to the public. I felt a wave of nausea. I wasn't just observing the future approaching, I was witnessing it unfold right before my eyes. One sleepless night, I turned on the news. A group of experts was discussing recent discoveries in the ice sheets, suggesting they had uncovered something strange and ancient in the deep layers. The anchor called it the greatest scientific discovery of our time. I was frozen. The way they spoke, It wasn't just excitement, it felt carefully planned. The way they introduced the findings, the gradual conditioning of the public and the hints of something bigger, it was exactly what Jesus had warned me about. I knew what would come next. First, they would release information in small doses, easing the public into the idea of a hidden history. Then, they would slowly push forward the deception, using trusted figures, scientists, politicians, and even spiritual leaders to convince the world that what was coming was a gift. I recalled what Jesus had said. They won't make people choose between good and evil. They will convince them that evil is good. This was the beginning of that very process. I turned off the TV, my hands trembling. I knew I had to do more. In the days that followed, I struggled with what to do next. I was just one person, one voice among billions. How could I possibly stop what was coming? But then I remembered what Jesus told me. It's not your job to convince the world. It's your job to speak the truth. Those who are seeking it will recognize it. So, I decided to go all in. I reached out to journalists, alternative media outlets, and even former colleagues who I knew were already questioning the official stories about Antarctica. Some of them listened, some just laughed. But I wasn't going to let that stop me. The truth isn't meant for everyone. It's meant for those who are willing to see it. As I worked to spread the word, something unexpected started happening. People I didn't know, scientists, researchers, even ex-military personnel, began reaching out to me privately. They'd seen things they weren't allowed to talk about. Some had been involved in classified Antarctic operations and had encountered mysterious structures. Others had been silenced when they asked too many questions. One message, in particular, stuck with me. A man who claimed to be a former government scientist sent me an encrypted email. It contained one chilling line. "You were right, but it's already too late." I read it over and over again, my mind racing. Did he mean the deception had already started? That the truth had already been buried? I tried to reach out to him again, but the email was gone, vanished without a trace. Fear started creeping in. What if Jesus had shown me these things not as a warning to stop them, but as a final call to help prepare those who would listen? Sitting in the dim light of my office, my hands gripping the edge of the desk, I realized something. I'd spent my whole career chasing the truth through science, logic, and the natural world. But the biggest truth had been revealed to me beyond death itself. And now I feared my time to share it was running out. I picked up my phone and opened the recording app. If you're hearing this, it means the deception has already begun. I took a deep breath and reminded myself, don't believe everything they say. The ice walls were never meant to be broken. Miracles will soon unfold, but don't be deceived. They're not real. You must stay anchored in the truth. Hold on to Jesus. Don't accept the upgrade. Don't take the mark. Stay alert. Stay ready. The time is now. I hit save, and a sense of peace washed over me. I had done what I was meant to do. Now, it was in God's hands.